The phone rang at 12:43 a.m. Not a soft buzz. Not a harmless ping. It was a loud, jarring ring that cut through the silence of our bedroom like a blade. It startled me so badly I knocked the alarm clock off the nightstand trying to grab my phone. I don't get late calls. No one does, really, not unless it's something bad. And this one felt different. Heavy. Final. On the other end was a calm but clipped voice. Officer Kenmore from the Bath Police Department. He told me they'd found a vehicle on the shoulder near the Route 1 exit. Still running. No one inside. Headlights cutting through the night, engine humming quietly like the driver had just stepped away for a moment. But there were no signs of them returning. Make. Model. Plate number. My chest tightened. It was my car. My blue Chevy Tahoe. But I hadn't driven it in days. That car had been in Haley's possession lately, ever since hers went into the shop for a busted radiator. She liked how roomy mine was. Said it made her feel safer on the highway. My mouth went dry. "I'm sorry, sir," the officer said, "but we need someone to come verify ownership." I sat in the dark, heart pounding, staring at the empty side of the bed where she should have been. Her pillow was untouched. She hadn't come home. That's when my mind started piecing things together, the excuse she gave earlier that night, the way she laughed it off when I asked too many questions. "Girls' night," she'd said, tossing the words out casually like they were meant to disarm me. Me, Tessa, and 2 others. Just wine and venting, nothing dramatic. But I'd seen her before she left. That wasn't casual. That wasn't wine and venting. That was something else. She wore a tight, brand new black dress with a gold zip in the back I'd never seen before. Her hair was curled, not just brushed, but done. Professionally. The perfume was stronger than usual. Not the subtle vanilla she used for work, but something bold and floral, sharp enough to leave a trail. And lipstick. Ruby red. The kind she hadn't worn since our anniversary last year. I'd caught her in the mirror, hesitating, looking at herself, not with pride, but calculation. As if she were trying to convince herself of a role. I asked where exactly this night out was. She smirked, flicked her wrist like she couldn't be bothered with the details. "Don't start, Jack. You're being jealous again." Again. That word landed hard. Like this was a pattern. Like the fault was mine. After the call from the police, I tried reaching her immediately. No answer. Just 3 long rings and voicemail. Then again. Still nothing. I stared at the wall, gripping my phone until my knuckles went white. On the 4th try, she picked up. Her voice was rushed and annoyed. What? She snapped. "No, hello, no worry." Just pure irritation, like I'd just interrupted something she didn't want me to hear. I asked where she was. She said she got spooked, thought someone was following her, so she pulled off the road. She said she panicked and just ran. No idea where. "I'm fine now," she added. "It's over." I asked why she hadn't called me or the police. Her answer? I figured it wasn't worth the drama. Drama. That's what she called leaving a running car alone in the middle of the night on the edge of town. I knew that stretch of Route 1 well. It wasn't a place you'd wander alone at night unless you had no choice or unless you had help. I told her the cops had already found the car. She didn't sound surprised. In fact, she barely reacted. That's when the next blow landed. While we were still on the phone, my screen flashed with a notification fraud alert from my bank. I opened the app and my breath caught. A transfer. $4,800. Sent 2 hours ago. The recipient? W. Cole. I asked her about it calmly at first. She scoffed. "It's nothing," she said. "Just a deposit. A real estate thing I'm working on." I wanted it to be a surprise. A surprise. At nearly 1 in the morning. With money from our joint account. "We've been looking, remember?" she said breezily, as if I'd forgotten something critical. But we hadn't. We weren't planning any move. No agents. No viewings. No calls. I sat in stunned silence. My thoughts spiraled. My eyes kept drifting back to the dark space beside me in the bed. When I pressed her on it, her voice turned cold, clipped. "Jack, you're being paranoid. Seriously. It was just girls' night, and now I'm dealing with your trust issues again? You should get some sleep." And with that, she hung up. I just sat there, staring at the screen. I wasn't angry. Not yet. That would come later. Right now, I felt displaced. Like someone had shifted the ground under my feet. I tried to make sense of it. Tried to remind myself of all the times she looked me in the eye and said she loved me. All the nights we held our daughter together when she had nightmares. All the trips we planned. The house we worked for. But all of that felt like a photo that had faded too fast. The edges had curled. The colors had bled. Somewhere between the promotion she got last winter and tonight's unanswered questions. Something had changed. And if I was honest, brutally honest, I'd seen it coming. I stood up and looked out the window. The wind was shaking the trees, bending them like they might break. Our driveway was empty. She wasn't coming home tonight, and even if she did, something told me a bigger storm was already on the way. After Haley hung up, the silence wrapped around the room like a cold sheet. I just sat there, phone still in hand, the faint blue glow casting long shadows on the walls. I could hear the fridge humming downstairs, the old pipes clinking in the walls, all the ordinary sounds of home. But none of it felt familiar anymore. I don't know how long I sat there. 5 minutes? An hour? Time had become liquid, strange, and irrelevant. Then I heard the soft patter of footsteps. Emma, our 6-year-old daughter. She stood quietly in the hallway, holding her worn-out stuffed rabbit by one ear. Her pajamas were wrinkled, hair a tangle of soft curls. She looked up at me with wide, knowing eyes, the kind of eyes that didn't belong on a child so young. She didn't ask what was wrong. She didn't cry. She simply walked over, climbed onto the couch beside me, and laid her head on my shoulder. Then she whispered, "I know, Dad. I already did everything." I didn't understand what she meant. Not then. Not fully. But something in her voice stopped me cold. That night I barely slept. I tucked her back in, watched her drift off with her rabbit under her chin, and then I returned to the living room and stared out the window until the sky started to fade into a pale gray. And while I stared, my mind unraveled everything I had neatly boxed away over the last several months. It started when Haley got the new job, a sudden, almost too convenient offer from a high-end event planning firm in Portland. She had been applying to places, sure, but this came out of nowhere. No formal interviews, no calls she discussed. One day she was sending out resumes, and the next she was wearing heels and carrying a company laptop. At first I was proud. She seemed excited, energized. It felt good to see her passionate about something again. But soon, things began to shift. She started coming home later. Meetings ran long. Traffic was terrible. "Clients are demanding," she said once, pouring a glass of wine without even taking her shoes off. "You wouldn't believe the egos I have to manage." I believed her. I wanted to. I reminded myself that relationships go through seasons, that we were both tired, that this was just an adjustment. Then the calls started. Late-night notifications. Messages she always silenced. Her phone was never out of arm's reach anymore. She carried it from room to room like it was a limb. I joked once about how she was more married to her phone than to me. She didn't laugh, just looked at me like I was being ridiculous. She began guarding her phone with a vigilance I'd never seen before. If I so much as looked in its direction, she'd tilt the screen away, turn it off, put it face down, always with a casual shrug and a change of subject. She stopped showing me pictures from her day or updates about the events she was planning. I used to hear about floral arrangements, seating charts, difficult clients who wanted custom menus at the last minute. Now I got nothing. And then there was the cologne. It was a Thursday night. I remember because it was parent-teacher conference week at Emma's school. Haley came in just before 10 p.m., claiming she had to meet with a vendor about a last-minute corporate fundraiser. I kissed her cheek, and that's when I smelled it. Not her usual soft scent. This was something sharp, bitter, cheap, the kind of cologne you smell in a bar bathroom, the kind you don't forget. I asked her about it. She looked puzzled at first, then laughed it off and said, "Someone in the elevator must have been wearing it." I didn't push it, but the smell stayed in the room long after she left it. From there, it was small things, but they added up. She'd run errands in clothes that didn't match the purpose. Full makeup and hair just to grab groceries. Heels for a pharmacy run. She'd slip out of the house on Saturdays and say she needed to stop by the office. One time, she didn't come back until sundown and claimed she lost track of time at Starbucks. She grew distant from Emma, too. They used to be inseparable. Little spa nights, reading books together, making pancake shapes on Saturdays. But over time, those rituals dissolved. Haley started using words like space and overstimulated. Said she needed quiet, that Emma was too clingy. She even rolled her eyes once when our daughter asked her to help with a craft project. I remember how Emma's face crumpled in confusion. That image haunted me for days. I didn't want to believe it. I made excuses for her, told myself she was tired, that maybe I was reading too much into it. After all, marriage wasn't always roses and candlelight. We had our ups and downs, stress, responsibilities. It was normal, right? But it wasn't. It was something else entirely. Something calculated. Something cruel. Looking back now, I realize how hard I worked to ignore the signs. I silenced my gut instinct in favor of keeping peace. I pretended not to notice when she'd disappear for hours and come back without an explanation. I told myself love meant trusting, even when the facts said otherwise. And maybe I was afraid. Afraid of what it would mean if I admitted the truth. Afraid of breaking everything we had built. Afraid of what would happen to Emma. But that night, sitting in the living room in the dim light with shadows crawling across the ceiling, I finally allowed myself to see it. Really see it. Haley had been slipping away from us for months, and I had let her. All the red flags I had ignored were now slapping me across the face like waves in a storm. I thought about her eyes, how they stopped lighting up when I walked into the room, how she never reached for my hand anymore, how she flinched when I said, "I love you," as if the words were nails on a chalkboard. I thought about our last anniversary, the way she forgot it entirely, claimed it had slipped her mind between client calls. No card, no dinner, no acknowledgement. I'd ordered takeout and eaten alone. I thought about Emma, about how she had picked up on things I had missed, or maybe refused to admit, how she had learned to be quiet, observant, how her little voice tonight sounded so certain, so heartbreakingly calm. "I already did everything," she'd said. At the time, it made no sense. But I would soon understand. Very soon. 2 days after that night. After the abandoned Tahoe, the silent treatment, and the denial wrapped in sarcasm. Haley walked through the front door as if nothing had happened. She looked rested. Hair done. Nails freshly painted. Not a single wrinkle on her shirt. I was in the kitchen when I heard the keys jingle. She gave a faint smile, set her purse down on the counter, and greeted me like a coworker she barely knew. I didn't say much. Couldn't. My throat was tight with questions, but none that I wanted answered with more lies. She poured herself a glass of water, took a long sip, and casually said, "The car's fine, by the way. Just needed to cool off. That whole mess? Handled. Handled. That's what she called it." Then she added something about the bank issue. Claimed she called and sorted it out, that it was a miscommunication. No apology. No acknowledgement of the fact that $4,800 had vanished into thin air. I didn't even ask who W. Cole was. I was past that. I just nodded. Let her talk. But the air between us was different now. Thick, still, and she could sense it. I could see it in the way her eyes darted toward mine, then away. She was waiting for something. A confrontation. Maybe even a fight. But I gave her nothing. Later that evening, Emma approached me while Haley was upstairs, unpacking. My daughter had a seriousness to her that didn't match her size. Like the weight of the world had been quietly resting on her tiny shoulders. She had something tucked behind her back. I knelt beside her. "What's up, honey?" She pulled it out, a silver laptop. Old, scuffed around the edges. Haley's old work computer, the one she said she lost months ago. The one I thought she'd thrown out. Emma held it like it was something dangerous. "I found this in the storage bin in the garage," she said. I turned it on, and I remembered the password. It was easy. Just my name and your birthday. I froze. She opened it and clicked with more confidence than any 6-year-old should have with an adult's computer. Within seconds, she navigated to the email app. "In here," she said, pointing. A thread was open with the subject line, "Final transfer." The sender, W. Cole. Dozens of messages. All recent. One stood out. I clicked it. "Got the money. Still on for Saturday. We'll leave once he's out at the gym." My stomach turned. Attached below were scanned images of 2 bus tickets from Portland to Boston, set for the coming Saturday. And a hotel reservation, a suite at a boutique place near the harbor. 2 guests, 3 nights. But there was more, so much more. There were PDFs of identification documents, altered names, temporary mailing addresses. There were spreadsheets, titled Schedule, Payment Log, and one chillingly named Exit Plan. Emma looked up at me. "I sent everything to your email," she said quietly, "and I deleted it from the cloud." I stared at her, not knowing whether to be amazed, heartbroken, or terrified. She must have seen the confusion in my eyes, because she added, "I was scared for you." That hit harder than anything Haley had ever done. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was danger, strategy, intent. And the most horrifying part? Haley had no idea her 6-year-old had just dismantled her entire escape plan. I took the laptop and hugged Emma tightly. She clung to me, rabbit in hand, her small arms wrapped around my neck like she didn't want to let go. When she went back to bed, I opened the files again. The name W. Cole appeared over and over. Sometimes as Will, sometimes just as initials. He wasn't just an accomplice, he was the architect. In one email, he wrote, "Don't stall this time. You said once he's out, we move. I'm not doing another month of this back and forth. Another one. You're playing 2 sides and it's gonna bite us both. Either clean the account or I'm out." There was bitterness in his tone. Pressure. This wasn't some whirlwind romance. This was a transaction. A plot. I scrolled through weeks' worth of communication. It wasn't just about sneaking off to Boston. It was about disappearing. Haley had been planning this for a long time. Slowly shifting money, fabricating a story, preparing a new identity. And yet, despite all her secrecy, it was our daughter who unraveled it. Because while I had been too stunned, too paralyzed by disbelief to act, Emma had been watching. Listening. Acting. There were even *TS she had saved of messages Haley had sent to someone named T, possibly Tessa, the same friend from the supposed girls' night. In one message, Haley wrote, "He's still clueless. I'll cry if I need to, but this time I'm out for good. I can't keep playing house." Another one read, "Emma will be fine. She's young. Kids bounce back. He'll probably get another dog and call it therapy." That one hit me in the throat. The detachment. The cruelty. The flippant tone she used while talking about the child she once called my little miracle. I remember sitting on the floor of the office, my back against the wall, laptop open on my knees. I don't think I blinked for a full minute. I read those words over and over, each time hoping I had misread them. Misinterpreted. But no. They were hers. Her words. Her plan. I thought about Emma, how careful she had been, how intentional. She hadn't just stumbled on the laptop. She'd been searching. Following a feeling I had tried to suppress for months. She had done what I couldn't, she faced the truth. And in doing so, she gave me everything I needed. Proof. Motive. Timeline. A full map of Haley's deception. But most of all, she gave me time. Because that Saturday, the day Haley and her accomplice planned to disappear, was still 3 days away. 3 days. That was all I had. To prepare. To protect. To take back control. I didn't tell Haley I knew. Not yet. I couldn't risk her running again, not before I was ready. But I wasn't alone. After Emma showed me the emails, I contacted an old friend, Eric, a private investigator I used to work with back when I did freelance IT security jobs. He owed me a favor, and more importantly, he trusted me enough not to ask too many questions. I gave him everything I had, the bus ticket scans, the hotel reservation in Boston, the email threads with W. Cole. Within a few hours, he called back. "She's not in Boston yet," he said. "But she's not far." Eric had tracked a hotel booking under Haley's maiden name, Laurel Adams. A room at a cheap roadside motel just outside Portsmouth, near the New Hampshire border. The reservation had started that morning, paid in cash, but the clerk remembered her. Said she looked tense and asked for a room at the end of the hallway. Classic behavior for someone who doesn't want to be seen. I drove there that night. It was a gray, rotting building that smelled like bleach and cigarette smoke, with a rusted vending machine outside and flickering lights under the awning. It looked like the kind of place people went to when they didn't want to be found or didn't care if they ever were. I didn't knock right away. I stood outside room 213 for a long time, listening. Muted voices. A laugh. Then silence. I knocked. A few seconds passed. Then the door creaked open, just a few inches. Haley stood there in yoga pants and an oversized t-shirt, her hair up in a messy bun. No makeup. No pretense. Her eyes met mine and she didn't even flinch. Not surprise. Not guilt. Just exhaustion. Of course, she muttered. Of course you'd find me. She stepped aside, letting the door swing open. I walked in. The room was a mess. Clothes spilled out of an open suitcase. 2 empty wine bottles on the nightstand. 2 glasses. A cheap bag of chips half-eaten on the bed. An open laptop sat on the desk, still glowing. I glanced at the screen. A chat window was open. Cole, you're dragging this out. I'm not gonna be your next S***er. It was the same tone from the emails Emma had shown me, cold, transactional, demanding. She noticed me looking. He's an idiot, she said, collapsing into the chair. Thinks I owe him more than I do. I didn't answer. I just stood there, staring at her. I was trying to find the woman I married, the one who once lit up a room just by walking into it. But she wasn't there. Not anymore. What I saw instead was someone else entirely, distant, calculating, unrecognizable. She reached for the wine glass beside her, took a sip, and said nothing. She didn't ask about Emma. Didn't ask how I found her. She just sat there. I finally asked one question: why did you drag our daughter into this? She looked at me with something like amusement. Drag her? Please. She figured it all out herself. I didn't say anything. She just snooped. Snooped. I repeated, barely containing the rage rising in my chest. She's smart, Haley said with a shrug. Smarter than I thought. But she doesn't get it yet. She's a child. She doesn't know what adults go through. My voice stayed quiet, but my hands curled into fists. She was trying to protect me. That got a reaction. Haley smirked. Of course she was, she said. You always made her your little sidekick. You two against the world. The words hit like a slap. That wasn't love talking. That was spite. And I saw it clearly now. Haley didn't just leave us. She had left long ago. What I'd been living with was a mask, a version of her that had been running on autopilot, biding her time. There was no tearful apology. No explanation. She didn't seem interested in pretending. And that, oddly, gave me clarity. Because when someone stops lying, not because they respect you, but because they don't care anymore, that's when you know it's over. Really over. She glanced back at her laptop. He's threatening to go public, she said, almost like an afterthought. Says he'll tell people everything if I don't pay him back. I looked at her, confused. Everything? She sighed. Every lie. Every dollar. Every name. She was unraveling now, talking like she forgot I was there. Or maybe she didn't care if I heard. I thought I was playing him, she said quietly. Turns out he was playing me too. He got more than he let on. Copies of things. Documents. Messages. He was saving everything. I was supposed to get out before it caught up with me. My head spun. I knew Haley had been deceptive, but this was layered. This was dangerous. I asked, who is he? She hesitated. Then, just someone who saw me. Someone who knew what I wanted. What did you want? I asked. She looked me in the eye, and for the first time that night, her voice cracked. Freedom, she whispered. I just wanted out. I didn't have words for that. Not then. I turned toward the door. She didn't stop me. As I walked out of the motel room, I heard her light a cigarette. That familiar click of a cheap plastic lighter. I hadn't even known she smoked. Outside, the cold air hit me hard. The parking lot was empty except for my car and a dusty black sedan with a missing hubcap. I stood still, taking in the silence. No more lies. No more pretending. Back in the car, I sat with my hands on the wheel and stared out at the dark horizon. I should have felt vindicated. Or furious. Or broken. Instead, I felt hollow. Like the truth had scraped me out from the inside. But at least now I could see everything clearly. She hadn't just cheated. She hadn't just lied. She had quit on us long ago. And now that the mask was off, I could finally begin to figure out what came next. The next morning started like any other, except, of course, it wasn't. Emma had already left for school. I stood in the kitchen, pouring myself a cup of coffee I didn't really want, just trying to feel normal. But there was nothing normal about anything anymore. Every sound felt louder. Every breath heavier. The world had tilted and I hadn't yet found my footing. Then the doorbell rang. Not a knock. A single chime. I opened the door to find no one. Just a small yellow envelope tucked under the doormat. No return address. No stamps. Hand-delivered. The handwriting on the front read simply, Jack. I brought it inside, heart pounding like a drum. Inside the envelope was a flash drive. Black. Cheap. No branding. Just a note folded around it, plain white paper, 3 words scrawled in blocky capital letters. You don't know her. Nothing else. My fingers shook as I plugged the flash drive into the laptop. A folder popped up almost instantly, VID_01, VID_02, and VID_03. I clicked on the first. It was footage of my own living room. My blood went cold. The angle was high from one of the decorative shelves above the TV, as if someone had carefully positioned a small hidden camera. In the frame was Haley, sitting cross-legged on our couch, holding a glass of red wine, laughing. She was talking on a video call. I couldn't see the other person, but her voice was crystal clear. "He still thinks I love him," she said, swirling the wine. "Can you believe that? I mean, I almost feel bad." "Almost?" She laughed again. Loud, sharp. The sound didn't even seem to belong to her. "He's going to fund the whole thing," she continued. "He just doesn't know it yet. The house, the car, the savings, it's all going to disappear with me. And he'll be standing there wondering what happened." My breath caught. My stomach churned. But I couldn't stop watching. She took another sip and said the words that will never leave me. "He's the fool funding my freedom." The video ended abruptly. I sat still for a long time, trying to process it. My hands clenched the sides of the chair as the second video loaded. This one was in a hotel room. Dimly lit, beige curtains pulled shut. Haley sat on the edge of the bed with a man, the same one I'd seen referenced in the emails. Cole. They weren't affectionate. They weren't cuddling or smiling. They were plotting. A spreadsheet was open on the laptop in front of them. Haley pointed to something on the screen. "Once the last payment clears, we move fast. I've already told the kid we're going on a work trip. She won't question it." Cole didn't respond right away. He just stared at her with narrow eyes. Then he asked, "And the husband? He still thinks you're fixing the marriage." Haley rolled her eyes. "He thinks I'm stressed. That I need a break. He's more worried about me than about himself. He has no clue." They went on like that, discussing timelines, passwords, safe withdrawal limits. They had clearly done this before. And it was clear that Haley, my wife, was not new to deception. But it was the third video that shattered me. It started with a slam. Haley stormed into a child's bedroom, Emma's. The camera was positioned from the hallway just behind the door. Likely another hidden camera planted to catch what no one was supposed to see. Haley's voice was sharp and furious. "Were you snooping again? Answer me." Emma, small and brave, stood beside her bed, clutching her stuffed rabbit, chin up. "You lied," she said quietly. "You said you loved him." Haley stepped forward, her face twisted in anger. "You don't understand anything, Emma. You think you're helping, but you're ruining everything." "I'm protecting Dad," Emma said, voice steady. There was silence then. A moment of thick tension. Haley didn't scream after that. She just turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The screen went black. I couldn't breathe. There's a kind of pain that doesn't announce itself with tears. It just seeps in, slowly filling the spaces between your bones until you can barely move. I watched that last video 3 times. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to understand. My wife hadn't just turned against me. She had turned against our daughter. She had stepped into Emma's room not to comfort her, not to explain, but to midate her. To silence her. And my daughter, my little girl, had stood her ground. "I'm protecting Dad." Those words echoed in my mind like church bells in a quiet town. And with them came something else, clarity. This wasn't just betrayal. This wasn't just a broken marriage. It was war. Not the loud, explosive kind. The quiet, insidious kind that tears families apart from the inside, slowly, silently, while the world outside thinks everything looks fine. I unplugged the flash drive, placed it back in the envelope, and hid it in the safe under the stairs. I wasn't sure who had sent it, Eric, maybe? Or someone who'd grown tired of watching Haley's lies pile up. But whoever it was, they had done me a favor. They had peeled back the last layer of the mask. There was nothing left to defend. That night, after Emma had gone to bed, I stood outside under the stars, breathing in the cold air. The porch light buzzed behind me. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. I thought about every moment I had spent defending Haley. Every argument I had avoided. Every time I had swallowed doubt because I wanted to believe in her. And then I thought about Emma. Her bravery. Her instincts. The fact that at 6 years old she had seen through the lies I refused to confront. I realized I didn't need more evidence. I didn't need more videos, more messages, more proof. What I needed was to protect what mattered most. And that meant moving forward. No more confrontation. No more attempts to fix what had already rotted through. Just preparation. Because the next move would be mine. Haley didn't disappear after that. She doubled down. A week after the videos, I was served papers. She had filed for custody, full custody of Emma. The documents painted a disturbing picture, claims that I was emotionally manipulative, that Emma was afraid of me, that I had turned her against her mother. Lies wrapped in legal language. In the courtroom, Haley played her part well. She cried. She painted herself as the victim. And then she submitted a letter allegedly written by Emma. "I'm scared of Dad," it read. "I want to live with Mom." But I knew my daughter's handwriting. This wasn't it. I hired a forensic document examiner. The analysis was quick and brutal. The letter was forged. Haley's case collapsed. The judge, visibly furious, not only dismissed her request but sanctioned her for fraud. Her visitation rights were restricted. She wasn't even allowed to contact Emma without approval. After the hearing, as we walked out, Haley leaned in and hissed, "You think you've won?" But this wasn't about winning. This was about protecting what she tried to destroy. I thought it was over until Eric called again. He had found something buried deeper, a hidden account under Haley's maiden name. It was filled with small deposits from different men. Over $40,000 total. She had been soliciting money under the guise of a donation campaign claiming Emma had a terminal illness. One man, Josh, a software engineer from Virginia, had sent her nearly $10,000. I contacted him. He had no idea it was a scam. When I showed him the truth, he was crushed. But what neither of us expected was the final twist. Haley had been blackmailed. The same man, W. Cole, who helped orchestrate her schemes, was threatening her, demanding a larger cut, threatening exposure. Her carefully laid plan had become her own cage. The pressure broke her. She was found unconscious in her motel room 2 days later. Pills, vodka, a torn note that read, "I lost everything." She survived barely. Was admitted to a psychiatric clinic. A week later, I received one final flash drive. Every document, every email, every scam. Enough to bury her legally for years. But I didn't turn it in. I burned it. Because Emma didn't need a father obsessed with revenge. She needed someone whole. And Haley? She was already living her punishment, not in a cell, but in a life she could no longer control. We moved on. Slowly. Quietly. Together. And that was enough.